Identity is at the core of every great digital experience. Ping Identity's solutions support the scale, flexibility, and resiliency required by enterprise-level IT teams for lasting digital transformation. With 99.99% uptime and over 3 billion identities under management, they're the only identity vendor that's proven to champion the scale, performance, and security of large enterprises. That's why Ping Identity champions your unique identity needs. They give you the tools to offer your users the right access at the right times, no matter how they connect with you. Visit securityweekly.com/Ping Identity to learn more.
The Security Weekly News is live on Tuesdays and Fridays at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, most every week. I try to scan and produce a quick look at some major stories to help you keep up with what's going on in and around the industry in a short format. Myself, Jason Wood, and other guest commentators provide greater insight every week. I'm Doug White, and I hope that you will look for the Security Weekly News in all of your favorite podcast catchers and subscribe for the latest content.
Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. You can now find us on Instagram. Follow us for highlight reels, giveaway announcements, and more at Sec Weekly. That's @SEC Weekly. All right, now for the Enterprise Security Weekly News. Speaking of news, Security Weekly News, that channel, that other podcast we have, is a lot of fun. My favorite thing are the thumbnails with Dr. Doug photoshopped in some hilarious different ways depending on what stories he's talking about. So you can check out securityweekly.com/ESW350. This is our 350th episode. You can always just put in securityweekly.com/ESW and then the number of the episode to look at the show notes for that episode. It will forward you over there. And you can do that if you want to follow along. We've got a lot of stories today. I think something like 39 stories. So we might not get through all of them, and you might want to go check that out. Also, Mr. Tyler Shields has joined us. How you doing, Tyler?
Hello, Mr. Adrian. Thank you for having me on your wonderful show.
Absolutely. We got some fun stuff to talk about today. You all ready? Any place you want to start, or should I just jump in?
Let's go. You take it away. You're the boss.
All right. So some really interesting acquisitions here. Might as well tackle it since we were just talking about it. But Veritas, I wouldn't think I'd have so much to talk about, such a saturated and honestly boring market as backups. But Veritas has been through some stuff. It's had some bad relationships. It's had some breakups. It's been single for a while, but now it's hitching the it's getting hitched again. Let's see, which number is that?
That'd be number 10.
Yeah, I need to refresh mine. But I could not figure out, what am I looking at here?
Traditional storage backup is dead. Like, it is dead. Right. And I really wish I could have heard a little bit more of Amar's
and by dead you mean not growing, right? Like it's flat.
Yeah, it's flat. There's no reason to be playing in that market anymore, right? It turns into what they call in business the cash cow, and you're going to milk that cash cow to invest some profits into some other highly growing, highly innovative business, right? And so back when Symantec did the acquisition, it wasn't quite yet in just pure cash cow status. It was still somewhat fresh, but now I don't know. And I really wish I would have seen more of the previous interview that you just got off of, because I would have loved to have dug into what is fresh about storage and storage security and data security these days, right? I'm still not, and I talked to a fair amount of young DSPMs and I still don't get it. I still am not there. It's just one of those markets I can't wrap my head around yet. And I just need to spend more time there, I think.
Well, we're mostly talking about the SEC rule, the disclosure rule, and but it's very close to data because I was talking about how I put most data breaches into two buckets. There's the bucket where clearly they know it was taken, they had enough logging, they knew where their data was, they knew what data they had, and they can be very specific about here's what was taken and it came from here. And then the companies who are like, from a lot of the press releases, it's clear they have no clue. So the press release is basically, we're assuming everything's gone, folks. Like, there's no fingerprints when somebody takes data. You can copy data. It doesn't leave any trail if you don't have any logging, if you don't have any tamper detection or anything like that. So I think that's kind of the key of DSPM, is actually knowing what you've got, where it is, what it is, who's accessing it, when, just having that whole log. It's kind of hard to do breach disclosure when you don't know what the heck happened.
The issue I have is what is DSPM as an isolated market, right? Is it data at rest and capturing data at rest and securing and looking for data at rest? Is it data in transit? Is it both? It's likely both. But
it seems like it's mostly at rest from what I've seen.
Well, that's my point, because shouldn't a lot of that, certainly all of the transit stuff, be logged with other communication systems to notice that certain data patterns are transferring around?
And there's some disparity. There's definitely feature parity isn't there. I've seen some DSPMs that only do cloud, and then some DSPMs who we don't care where your data is. If it's in a mainframe, whatever, a SAN, a NAS, S3, they cover all your environments, whereas some only cover some of them. So it's and SaaS is a big one also, right? A lot of companies, all their data is in Google Drive or OneDrive or something like that. There's not an agent you can install to monitor that data because it's a SaaS service. You got to use an API and just hope that whoever's running that thing, Box, Dropbox, Google, whoever, has enough granularity in their API that you can figure out what's going on.
Yeah, certainly any company started within the last 5 years is just 100% cloud data native.
They don't have file servers. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that was an interesting one to me. Certainly makes a lot more sense. Cohesity is also like a data backup company. So it seems like a much better relationship. They make a good couple. The details are a little cagey. It's definitely not an acquisition. They avoid both the acquisition term and the merger term. They refer to it as a combined company, and they say that the companies are combining. So to me, that sounds like a merger, but it's a private equity shop selling Veritas. So I guess they're kind of playing matchmaker and putting the two together. And they don't talk about their individual performance. They only talk about their performance as a combined company.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, they definitely have some. I was involved in one of those much earlier in my career. It was which cracked me up, because really all it boiled down to, the one I was involved in, was egos of founders. That's really all it came down to. Was one guy didn't want to be acquired, and he said, the only way I'll do this is if you on paper call it a merger of equals. But there are some some stock style things that allow certain legal things to happen or not happen, whether you're acquired or merged, right? And so sometimes there's some, it's used to get around legal hurdles of ownership and other legal issues. And I'm definitely not a lawyer, so it gets above my pay grade fairly quickly. But it's either one of two things. It's people trying to circumvent or hurdle certain triggers that might occur on acquisition, or it's just people with big egos who don't want to be acquired.
Yeah, and so one of the reasons I started with this is my note on our show notes actually turned into a post for your newsletter for the Cyberway, and there's a lot of interesting details there. Like we have some of the multiples and the details from back when Symantec acquired Veritas, which never made sense to a lot of people, but certainly that market, like you say, when you say it's dead. They mentioned the TAM in the press release is 30 billion, which is not a whole lot when these guys combined are already doing 1.6 billion. That's not a lot of headroom for a company to grow. And I wonder, mentioning their valuation, saying it should be around 7 billion, if that's kind of a precursor to them wanting to take this public.
Ooh, man, what a good analysis. I cannot wait to read your article in thecyberwhy.com. Please go look it up. It'll be coming out ASAP.
I enable you.
You do. But in all honesty, I brought it up while we were talking, and I can't wait to put it out because I think it's a really interesting angle that you've taken on that. Starting to look at some of the global TAMs, and there was another article I read. I might put it in this week's newsletter as well. About the article was basically entitled "TAMs are scams." Basically, TAMs are just hand wavy. It's kind of like, it's about this much. And you never really know. And oftentimes you can get a TAM from Gartner and get a TAM from an IDC and a TAM from a Markets and Markets. And they're like 20 billion, 30 billion off from each other. And it's like, so TAM is only directionally accurate.
So it's like when you ask your uncle how big that fish was, Ikai. He's like, it's about, like my arms aren't long enough,
Exactly.
I was recently asked to come up with market sizing and total addressable market for something. And I'm looking at this data and I'm thinking, why? Why am I spending all of this time doing it? Because it's throwing a dart at best. And even if you say, all right, here was what spending was in 2022 or even 2021, it's not totally accurate because you're not going to capture everything. Some sales are going to not be disclosed. So if there's channel involved, it might not be accurately broken down. Like there's so much, and I understand the need for concrete data. Believe me, I get it. I'm after it all the time, but sometimes you have to just think about, all right, what's right for me, not what else is. I mean, don't build a product, right? Don't build a product if there is no market. But don't base it on a number published by Gartner or Forrester or IDC or some other, in air quotes, financial market analysis firm.
And in this case, you could probably get pretty accurate at one point. Most of the backup industry was probably public, and a lot of it before they became platforms and got acquired and stuff were fairly focused. And you could go through SEC filings and you could say, okay, here's the revenue of 90% of the backup market, and you could have a pretty accurate number. But now a lot of that's been lost into AWS Glacier usage. Like there's no way you're going to get spending on Glacier usage separated out from the rest of AWS. Like it's gone. I mean, 30 billion feels right, but I bet more than half of that is just cloud backup in Azure, GCP, and in AWS.
Yeah. So when it comes to TAM, though, and I'd be willing to bet this is the case for you, Katie, and shake your head no if it's not. My gut tells me your usage of that data was to make some kind of strategic analysis on adjacent markets, maybe markets you want to do, additional products you want to roll out, things like that, right? It doesn't matter whether it's 30, 35, 38, or 40. You just need to T-shirt size it, I call it, right? Is it small, big, or large? And that's really all you need is kind of just directionally accurate data. So that's the first thing I'd say about. The second thing I'd say is for you doing your research on it, because all you need is directionally accurate. What I did, because I'm actually doing the exact same project right now for someone. I just go to ChatGPT and it summarizes all of them, pulls them together, and gives you a ballpark. And that's all you're looking for anyways. You don't need super accurate.
Yeah, no, it really, and I feel bad going back and saying this type of thing, but it we were joking about this before, Adrian. It depends. It's another one of those cybersecurity. Well, it depends.
A lot of assumptions, a lot of factors. Let's move on here. ZeroFox is kind of a sad case, not as sad as IronNet. Another one of the SPACs has gone down. They got a note back last fall that if they didn't pull up their stock price, they're going to be delisted. So this has taken them private, pulling them off of the NASDAQ, I believe it is. And I think they spent 18 months as a public company. And for most of these cybersecurity SPACs, it never made sense for these companies. And right now, ZeroFox is upside down on their funding versus their value. To the tune of $20 million or so. So they've raised a total of $371 million, and they're being taken private for $350, which is honestly generous because their
Yeah.
stock price was something like a fraction of a cent.
Absolutely incredible. I got my butt kicked on ZFox in the market. I bought into it at some point on the downward slide and said, "Oh, this can't go much lower. I'm in." No, it can, and did, which is absolutely incredible. But then, if you think about it, they IPO'd. That company IPO'd and is now worth less than many Series A cyber companies today. That's incredible, because I know tons of Series A cyber companies that are at maybe 15 million ARR, 12 million ARR, that are getting valuations in the 300 range, right? If they've gone from 0 to 12 super fast, you can usually catch like a 250, 300. Maybe if you've gone a couple years and maybe ran from like 6 to 18 or 20, you'll definitely catch a 350. It's incredible. These are 2-year-old companies I'm talking about, and this company's been around forever, IPO'd, and it's now worth less than 350 million. That's absolutely incredible.
It's a nice to have market that has very little competition. Even what they do in this market is very niche and specific. Absolutely has value, but I think it's mostly seen as a nice to have. And it was. This one always felt weird to me when they got to like unicorn size. This is one of those markets like enterprise browsers that I felt was always overvalued, and a niche market, has value to a niche market, but that market is niche. I believe very strongly.
And I bet you if you ask Chat GPT for a TAM, it'll tell you it's a small T-shirt size.
Yeah. Yep. And this is a difficult TAM because there's so much overlap here, protecting brands. And, like on one side of this, there's like helping people take down websites that are fake versions of their websites that are being used to phish their employees. And then like one of ZeroFox's big claims to fame is keeping people's social personas safe. So looking for fake versions of General Alexander, for example, I think was an early customer and an early example that they'd use in a lot of their marketing.
You know what they should have done? They should have done an acquisition before, instead of going IPO. They should have done an acquisition or a merger, whatever we want to call it, into a company that can do deep fake analysis. Because it fits their MO. And they could have pivoted, or not pivoted, but or at least extended into a bigger TAM of phishing.
Yeah. Yeah, them combined with Risk IQ wouldn't have had a whole lot of overlap, but Risk IQ is now part of Microsoft. They could have wrote it into Microsoft. I think that would have been an exit that made more sense, and that would have made that acquisition more complete on Microsoft's side. But coulda, woulda, shoulda.
If they're speaking of deep fake analysis, if there are any startups out there that are doing deep fake discovery and have a really good tech on it, please ping me. I'm pretty interested in doing some analysis on that market. We're seeing active ransomware and active phishing attempts with, I think we talked about it last week on here, with the multiple visual deep fake video thing that got the person in Hong Kong for $25 million. I think we spoke about it last week. And I think that, like I said, that would have it's a natural extension to, protecting an individual's brand, which is what ZFox's storyline was. But if anybody's doing that at scale and well, please let me know. I'd be interested in hearing more about that.
All right, let's run through some of the funding here. Honestly, Tyler, one of the first things I do is search back through our notes. I feel like we've talked about companies that do that at some point in the news, but
I'm stupid. I'm stupid and forget stuff. So
yeah. So that's the reason when we're done with this, I take my notes straight from the webpage here and copy them into Notion so that I can use the AI and search features in Notion to do research. Because I spend so much time finding these interesting stories that having them all in one place that's searchable I've found is really valuable for me.
The value of that is incredible, Adrian, and the value of having a friend who has it is even more incredible.
Yeah, because you don't have to manage it.
Because I don't have to do it. I just ask you to help me.
Precisely. So let's see. So impressive from Ninja One, $231.5 million raise, which is a very specific number. makes me think part of a cap table is getting bought out there. It's a Series C. We haven't seen big late stage funds like this in a while. It values them as a unicorn, close to $2 billion. And not really, honestly, I couldn't even remember hearing this name before because it's kind of security adjacent. It's device management, which, there's a lot of security done in device management, but more of an IT product. IT is going to be the buyer here, not security.
Yeah, it's probably why it's actually maybe a valid valuation because it's not a security project and it's more IT focused.
BugCrowd raised over $100 million. Very interesting. Their last raise was a $30 million Series D, so this is a very big raise. And they come right out and mention strategic M&A opportunities, in addition to kind of the usual stuff, growing into new markets, general growth and R&D and stuff like that. I immediately started wondering, I've always wondered what this market looks like, because this is another market that has value, very niche. There's really only two big companies in it. There's Hackeroni and BugCrowd. And I don't see either of them. Like, maybe they go public at some point. I have no idea what the revenues are like, but there's certainly, like, the raises for these companies have been pretty slow, suggesting to me that they're fairly profitable, fairly self-sustaining. And I just happened to find, so Casey Ellis, one of the founders of BugCrowd, created a list of other BugCrowd projects and companies, put it on his GitHub. And I feel like maybe that's their potential acquisition list.
That's interesting. Typically, you don't acquire direct competitors unless you're trying to use it to break open a geo or to do something that complements what you do. It's usually, if the answer is, we're going to buy somebody to buy revenue, that usually doesn't end well. But if you're buying somebody to pop a geo.
So if you look at that list, it's very geo-specific. So I think they might have to do that to break into certain markets. There are a lot of bug bounty companies out there that serve only a specific language market, specific, because it's very community-based, right? Like, the whole idea is to create this whole community of people who agree to hack stuff for you as a service, and then you go find the clients and you point the community at the clients. So getting that community is a critical piece, and easier to do it if you found somebody who's already built that crowd, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a community play. That's the interesting thing about a bug bounty program, a bug bounty platform. There's some product there. I'm not saying it's not a product, but it's still, at the end of the day, is powered by human beings that are doing vuln analysis and then reporting it, right? So there is a human limiter to the speed at which it can grow, because you need the humans, which makes it inherently community-based, which makes it inherently word of mouth amongst the people that could do that work, makes it very geo-cut. So all sorts of reasons. I'm just wondering, because it looks like the last commit was 2 months ago on this. I'm wondering why he would put it into public. What's the point? Just, I guess, maybe just to crowdsource it so that he doesn't have to go find them all himself?
Yeah, well, I mean, so he posted as part of another company he has, which is I think a nonprofit. So it's, like a lot of the work he's done is community work. It's just putting the information out there. But I don't see more than 2 or 3x. For one of these smaller bug bounty companies, they might be pretty cheap. You might be able to scoop up quite a bit of them with $100 million.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially just basically a PE acquisition expansion style. I really like the idea. If he's not doing it, I think he should be.
Yeah. Let's see. Not interesting. Lima Charlie raised a Series A. They've been around since 2018. So I don't know if they were originally bootstrapped or what, but it seems like they've been around for a while. So I was kind of surprised to just now see a small Series A from them.
Yeah, I thought they were already A2, but guess not. But good for them. Good for them to get a 10 in, SecOps cloud platform. As you call it, I think in your notes you say it, you can think of it as a modern SIEM in some ways, competes alongside Google Chronicle.
Replaces the SIEM for most people. Yeah.
And it's 6 years old. And I have spoken to their founders a few times for different things over the years, and they are very frugal. It's not Ross. I don't think he's a founder. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's a founder.
He's had a product there, I believe.
Yeah, he's definitely really deeply hooked in there. And then they've had a couple other folks that did a lot of marketing side stuff that I've spoken to in the past, and they're very frugal in a good way, not frugal in a like cheap, not able to grow way, but actually being smart about how they grow. Right? They don't want to just churn and burn and pray that they make it. Right? They're actually trying to build a healthy business, which good for them to land at 10 million after 6 years. They're still got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's does have some parallels to some of the other. I'm going to blank on the term because I haven't slept enough this week. But word of mouth, go to market. What's the
organic growth?
Product led? Yep.
Yeah, I think they've been kind of going that route with a lot of their stuff, and because usually when I hear about them, it is from somebody who says that they really enjoy the product, that they like the product.
That's great. That's great. I don't know if they have I'm on their website right now. They have a login and a sign up. So maybe it is product led. They have a sign up section.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know Eric Capuano and Whitney Champion went there. They of OpenSock fame used to run the OpenSock, done a lot of stuff together. InfoSec power couple. So they got a lot of smart people over there.
And here I thought it was only you and me that were the InfoSec power couple.
No, there are a few others.
We're like the Brangelina of cyber podcasts.
Debate it in the comments.
Comment down below which one of us is Brad and which one of us is Angelina.
I mean, never mind the fact that we haven't heard a word from her in years. If that's the way you want to go.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what the ESW crowd has to say about that comment. And also, I'm willing to bet that the graphics team is already coming up with some kind of Brangelina overlay or something. I guarantee you, it's already happening.
Plant the idea. No.
Oh, it's already planted, buddy. It's the minute I said that, it was planted.
All right. For the views. All right.
We're talking about Vorlon. We're talking about Vorlon.
Vorlon,
new company, number 7.
I thought you'd be interested in that. So that's kind of like a flip of what you've been into and you've been interested in. This is about API consumption, securing API consumption, not API hosting or production.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have been trying to keep an eye on them since they came out, trying to figure out exactly what they do. It sounds like they're more focused on like you said, the consumption side of an API set, potentially even fitting more like a CASB or fitting more like a edge proxy kind of outbound request to pull data in style approach, meaning if you write an application that makes an outbound request to a third party API, you can actually secure that outbound request as opposed to a lot of firewall technologies that look only or pay only attention to inbound requests. So definitely an interesting spin on API security, right? It's obviously not a global API security platform. It's more like a SaaS security style platform, but interesting spin on it.
Almost like an SWG for APIs, right? Like a security web gateway, secure web gateway.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's much closer to that. Now, mind you, I have not had a briefing. I haven't seen the product, but my understanding from their marketing materials is that's what it is.
I wonder how they implement that, because you would have to be somewhat in line, I would think, to do something like on endpoints. So you'd need an agent or a Chrome plugin or something like that to be able to get access to that data.
You can terminate it at the edge too. You can make it an edge device that terminates and re-requests or something like that. But it is, you're right. It's, trust me, there's a lot of questions in my mind too. I haven't gotten into the meat of how the product works yet.
Yeah. Or maybe they just sell TLS libraries. Just encrypting.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
No, it'd be interesting to dig in more and see what they're actually doing. All right, let's jump. I think we're pretty much done with the financials here. The funding, the business operations, all that stuff. Let's jump down to, let's see, I was going to cover that if Sean was here, but he's not. 13 was interesting. Apple doesn't often open source things, but they open sourced an AI library that can basically take a photo and edit it, and you just tell it like how to edit the photo, and it just does it. Make the background green, remove the background, like in plain English, you can do that, and it's rough at this stage, but it works. So it's pretty interesting. It's you can put a hat on somebody, you can take the hat off. Like I asked it to remove my glasses, and it looks like I had a skin transplant where the glasses were like it looked like skin had been grafted from somewhere else in my body. Like it didn't blend into my face, but it removed the glasses, and like this is very early. But I can see in a year or so traditional editing software just the interface moving to a text description of what you want to have done. I don't see any reason why that's not going to come. And I guess it makes sense that Apple's working on this too. More and more we see these magic erase tools on phones, right? Like you take a picture, you want to take the ugly power lines out of your picture, or that person that photobombed your picture or whatever. I totally see this as being like Siri, clean up and fix this picture, make it pretty, and it just goes and does it, right?
It would be nice for those of us who aren't like, somebody was talking to me, so maybe Siri had a.
Yeah, it looks like Siri picked up in Adrian's room.
I've got one right behind me.
Years ago, I did a photographer, and he was a whiz with Photoshop. And so I started to try to play around with it, and I never could get it. I knew exactly what I wanted to see, and I could never make it happen. I mean, I didn't.
There's a big learning curve.
Yeah, there was definitely a learning curve. So, I have mixed feelings about this, right? Because how much do we want to alter our reality to become this fake, freshly,
the tools are already, it's just making the tool more accessible, right? Like now you don't have the learning curve. It's not like it couldn't be done before.
Right. It makes it easier. So if I wanted to do something where I touch things up, but how it does get into a little bit of an ethical question, and there's certainly been some talk about that on the Hill, about the ethics of social media and its effect on especially young people. So how much of this do we want to present this shiny, no flawed?
Yeah. Well, it's even like art has tackled this, right? Like you have different categories in photography. There's a separate category for manipulated photos versus this is what the image sensor and the lens captured. They don't want those two competing with each other. They make them separate categories.
Right, but when it starts to get so good that the human eye can't see it, that's when we start to run into the ethical issue.
Well, it's becoming big business now, right?
It's a huge business.
Detecting AI. Yeah.
So 2 things I have to add. First things, I'm going to plant a seed with our super producers one more time and say, hey, Siri, give me Adrian's hair. Okay, so that's planting seed number 1. I always want to have an actual full head of hair instead of my bald head that I've got. But the real question I have on this article, I think for me, it's not all about the fact of what this particular LLM does. What excites me about this is that Apple's open sourcing it. Now, why would Apple open source a proprietary thing that they've built when they're notoriously known as the ones who remain proprietary? The reason this is because, in my opinion, I don't think the AI algorithms over time are the differentiation in success of any kind of AI system. AI actually will become based on who has the better data set. And at this point, Apple is saying, we're going to have the better data set. This doesn't even need a data set. This is a toy. Let's just level the playing field, give it to everybody, right? So this particular one, I think they're seeing is there's just not a whole lot of value in it because it doesn't require a massive data set to execute, which means it won't remain highly differentiated. So that to me is going to be interesting as we follow what LLMs and what algorithms get open sourced and which ones don't. And I think the ones that people will keep for money are the ones that rely on a very, very big data set to succeed.
Yeah, and I think even NIST recognizes that, because when I wrote that piece on the whole issue with the drugstore chain that use the facial recognition, talking about NIST and testing the facial recognition software. They differentiate between the data and the algorithm, because algorithms are going to be like the new API, right? They're just going to be the mechanism, and it's really about the data in, data out. How is it processed? Yeah, sure, but you throw just a little bit of trashy data in there, and it's going to upset the whole apple cart.
Check out those terms and conditions. They're all going to say we get to keep your data, we get to do stuff with your data because we need a lot of data.
And they're also going to say we are not liable for any outcomes of your algorithm.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. That's well, I mean, these tech companies have been collecting data for a long time already. Like that was the whole point of Gmail, right? The whole reason Gmail's been free for almost 20 years now is collecting data, reading your email. Let's see, moving on. Let's see, there's speaking of that, there's a guy who built an open source search engine that has some neat features. It has this feature called Optics. The search engine's called Stract.com. It's not really for like general public use, more for like if you want to hack around with a search engine, you can download this, play with it. And the idea of Optics is you can customize the search engine to be very focused on a certain area. So that's I thought that was an interesting feature of a search engine. If you want to say, look, I only want to do research on TAMs right now. So anything that doesn't have to do with the TAM, like leave that out of the search. Because it's there's a lot of name collisions, English word name collisions in searches. Like that's a lot of searching is specifying, I want this to show up in the results, but not this, or this. So doing that at like the search engine level seems interesting.
Yeah,
some fun stuff here, 15 and 16. Sorry, you were saying something?
Nothing. Nope, just agreed with you, bud. Go ahead.
So this was, I guess this was coming. I know Elon has the, I forget what the name of the thing is, Neuralink or whatever.
Yep.
So now there's this company called Lucid. And are they called Lucid? But anyway, they have a device, Lucid Dream Startup, Prophetics Halo. So the company's called Prophetic. The name of the device is Halo. And the idea is using electrical signals, shocks, kind of like it can make you aware that you're dreaming so that you can then control what you do in your dream and maybe recollect it when you wake up. So dream manipulation, that is a product now.
This is a horrible idea. Absolutely horrible idea. Because what are you going to do? Find an extra 4 hours a day to actually work while you're half asleep? The result is you're only sleeping 4 hours a night. You're still not sleeping when you're in this. You never hit REM.
They don't pitch that on the site. Like that's
they don't talk about that.
But how they pitch it on their site is more recreation while you sleep. They're almost pitching it like like you might with taking mushrooms or something like that. Because you can do whatever you want in a dream, right? Like you can live out fantasies and stuff like that while you're dreaming. So
I'm pretty sure that's called daydreaming.
Huh?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's just called daydreaming.
Right, but you have more control over it. So maybe you have an issue with nightmares or something like that, and this helps you with it. I don't know.
Hey, God bless if that is the case, right? But I'll tell you right now, I wake up 3 times a night. I never sleep longer than 3 hours a pop. The last thing I freaking need is to work in the 2 hours that I can sleep at a shot at night, right? This to me seems not only ridiculous, but bad for the body.
Yeah. I'm almost thinking like I could see, again, this is something that I think might have some therapeutic niche use cases. Like if you have a hard time trouble sleeping because of anxiety, you have high anxiety dreams and that wakes you up. It's if that helps you control it and get a good night's sleep, maybe. But the tech is there, so people are going to do it. They're going to sell it. You can pre-order it right now.
So I want to take a quick step back. Prophetic halos devices designed to induce lucid dreaming, whereby the wearer becomes aware that they are asleep and can control the experience. So does that mean I can literally like have this virtual world where I can actually like I can stand up on the top of a building and say I can fly, and then I can fly and I'll feel it and I'll experience it because I'm lucid dreaming as if I'm really flying.
Yes.
This is super trippy to me. Super trippy. For the recreational drug user, it sounds amazing.
That's what I'm saying. That's one of the photos they have on the website is like somebody flying.
There's so many bad uses of this. So many dark places this can go to.
Especially if you can connect it to your Twitch stream, like because that technology is coming also. They also have the ability to, use brain monitoring to see what you're actually thinking. So there's going to be like a video output to what is in your mind's eye, what is in your brain. So within our lifetimes, there will be people Twitch streams. Yeah, it'll get bad.
I hope I die before it comes out.
Oh man, it'd be like, I didn't mean to think about that. My account got shut down because my mind wandered.
Or your wife, God forbid, your wife watches your stream.
Yeah, my Twitch channel got shut down because my mind wandered in the middle of my dream. It was showing explicit content or something like that. Weird stuff coming.
Yes.
A little bit more down to earth. The next one is a USB stick that can self-destruct itself. So I've already seen USB sticks that will use the power you can draw over USB to fill a capacitor to then try and damage the device that they're plugged into. This is typically used for electronics testing. This is a feature. Apple is one of the few companies that actually has a protection circuit built in to make sure that a USB device cannot damage or hurt the motherboard. And it's basically like a fuse, but it's like a digital fuse. So it'll just disconnect that port from the laptop, and you got to completely power off the laptop, power it back on to get that USB port back. But at least it didn't let any damage happen to it. This one's different. This one, it tries to destroy itself using the same technique. I'm sure it like fills up capacitors and stuff like that, but just heats itself up, gets itself really hot to destroy itself if you don't use some kind of secret insertion process to unlock the data. Basically you don't have the password. It self-destructs. So little Inspector Gadget USB device here.
So here's
Probably
my
more
question: is this remotely executable?
What's that?
Is this remotely executable?
No,
like
I think it's a local
USB. Right, but wouldn't it be great if you had a remotely executable USB device? Let's say you're going somewhere, you have some information on your USB device, sensitive information about your company, sensitive information, whatever it might be, falls out of your bag. Those things are not big. You lose it somewhere. You leave it in a hotel room. You can remotely destroy your USB
so that's
device.
the idea here, but the destruction is based off of somebody trying to use it. If somebody tries to use it and doesn't know how to properly use it, it will self-destruct.
But they have to insert it and pull it out 3 times.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, like, if you, there should be some, and so someone should invent this, or maybe I should have just shut up and found somebody to invent this, something where the minute you realize you've left your USB device or your USB in the airport, you click a button
Remote
and you go,
trigger.
Yeah, like I mean, we can do that now with encryption. You can just revoke the certificate or something like that. There are ways to do that with the technology that we've got now. But
but that's so boring, Adrian. That's so boring. You want it to catch on fire. It just looks so much cooler if it catches on fire.
Burst into flames. Yeah,
like you want it to have like a napalm meltdown.
Really be thinking about it before you do it, versus like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. I left this on the airplane.
I mean, there are definitely advantages to it only happening when somebody's intending to use it, like not setting fire to the cargo hold of an airplane, Well,
yes, you don't want to do that.
Just saying. Whoops. Sorry.
Saying. Yeah, there are reasons you probably don't want it actively connected. Then somebody figures out once you have an interface there,
Forget about it.
somebody figures out how the API works, they blow up 100% of these devices remotely. you know, there's dangers to that as well.
This is
More
why
new
I
products.
don't have my own startup.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the process, right? Is that's part of what we do. So I'm actually talking about this at a conference tomorrow about being an early adopter, so that you can kind of think through these scenarios. You're like, this like the first person who came up with People. There used to be a social network called People with 2 E's, and the idea was you could rate other people. You could give other people ratings. And the moment you tell almost anybody this, they think about it for a couple seconds and they're like, that is just totally ripe to abuse. If anybody can rate a person, like it's just going to turn into a shit show. Like it's a terrible idea.
I instantly equated it to Hot or Not, the old hotornot.com site. Instantly, that's where my head went. I'm like, oh, that's going to turn into they're hot, they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, except this is like like Glassdoor, but for individual people. So like leave a review, and I mean it's part of the reason the thumbs down, the ability to see how many thumbs downs a video had on YouTube went away. It's immediately going to become overwhelmingly negative, and yeah, so it's I think that's just part of Katie. Part of coming up with the product is throwing it at people and say, try to ruin this.
And you just put it on an airplane and made my airplane blow up, and then that's a federal crime. I'm just going to go to jail forever. Yeah. It's fine.
Not your fault.
This is also a very, very important process for naming kids. If you're going to name a kid, you need to do this also. Ask people to like, how would you abuse this name? Oh yeah, we definitely shouldn't name them that.
Well, a completely irrelevant story. When I adopted my cat, I was originally going to name him Tucker, and I told my dad, and he said, "Oh, so when he's an asshole, we can call him Tucker the fucker." And I said, "I am not naming him Tucker."
Oh God, that's funny in and of itself, and even funnier that you said it live on air. Total win.
Yeah, well, they can bleep me out. It's fine.
Yeah,
we are live.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they can bleep me out with it on demand.
Yeah, this is not ABC, CBS, or NBC, so we're fine. Fine. Or NPR.
No, the funny thing is, above the three of us, she would be the last one that I would ever think said that to.
Yeah. True. So a few more new products. We've got another set of AI glasses coming out. Brilliant Labs frame glasses have a bit different from the Ray-Ban Meta ones that I have. So this one actually has a display, so it can display information on just a clear lens in front of you. Looks pretty cool, though. There's a lot of times. So sometimes I'm wearing the Ray-Ban glasses, and I forget that I'm wearing them, because like an hour goes by, I'm not using them. They're just on my face. And then a text comes in and it screams into my ear because I don't know where the volume's at, right? Hey, your sister's sending you a text. And I can only imagine like wearing glasses where a display is in front of your eye. Like that could be dangerous if you're driving a car and all of a sudden like a photo shows up in front of one of your eyeballs. That's potentially dangerous, but yeah, these things are going to keep coming out. Interesting looking idea and product, priced around the same, about $350. You can pre-order for one of these now. Less focused on like taking photos of things, more focused on like general purpose computing on your face.
More focused, it seems like, from what I'm reading here, as a AI assistant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My dream is coming true. I'm telling you, it's coming.
Which the Meta glasses can also do, but there's still a lot of limitations. I did get into the early access program, though, so I haven't tried it out yet, but my Meta glasses can now do the, hey, what am I looking at thing? Like tell you what plant you're looking at, describe what monument you're standing in front of. So that's kind of a neat. We'll see how well it works. I haven't tried it out yet. So we'll see how that works.
These
Google-
glasses from Brilliant are great unless you wear glasses, in which case you're toast.
No, you can get prescription lenses. So my Meta glasses have prescription lenses in them. So that's an
but you don't
option when
use the
go-
lenses. Can you get prescription lenses in these ones?
Yes, yeah, you can. That's part of the ordering. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. Obviously, it makes it more expensive. I forget. I think it was $400 for the Meta glasses with like just sunglasses or something like that. I think it was an extra couple $100 because I wanted the lenses, but I also wanted like the anti-fog and all the coatings and stuff they put on them. So mine ended up being more like $700. But yeah, they're glasses. Like they can do nothing and they're still a really good pair of glasses.
It looks like they also offer a monocle. I just want to see you in a monocle.
That's their old product. Yeah, their old product was like a single lens. I haven't looked too closely at that.
They still have it. I'm looking at images of it right now. They still have it available, and it is you 100% have to get this, Adrian. I need to see you in a monocle.
It looked hacky looking from what I had seen. Like
it is.
The new
yes.
one is,
very
the
much
new
so.
one is fairly sleek looking. Like the goal was you look at it and it just looks like a pair of glasses, kind of like my Meta ones. But yeah, that monocle looked like something somebody made in their garage.
It attaches to the front of a pair of glasses. So you wear it, wear glasses, and then you attach the monocle to the front of one of the glasses.
You hang it off the frame. I gotcha.
Yep, that's right. You got to buy those.
They do say indistinguishable from regular eyeglasses. I'm not sure I'm there on the fashion, the fashion
Adrian's
argument yet.
Yeah, Adrian's
so
looks
the
way better.
Actually, so you can get two different kinds. They have two styles, and they're styles that Ray-Ban has had for 70 years, right? So, the Wayfarer, I think, is the one I have, and I forget the name of the other one. But nobody looks twice at those Ray-Bans because they're familiar with that style of Ray-Ban. Yeah. Obviously, if you look a little closely at it, you can see that there's two lenses at either corner. One is the camera, one is the light, the LED. But people don't ever notice it.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the Brilliant Labs ones. The better Ray-Ban, Meta Ray-Ban ones might be different. These Brilliant, I'm definitely not looking at everything and going, oh, those look like regular glasses.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people just don't look at things though. Like in general, like if you've ever seen the invisible gorilla experiments, where somebody asks you count the number of times these 7 people passed a ball to each other, and they have somebody in a gorilla suit walk right across the scene as you're counting, and most people don't see the gorilla, even though it walks right through the scene that you're closely staring at. So there's that effect also. So Google rebranded and rebooted their AI product. Bard is gone forever. Now we have Gemini. And Gemini Advanced is $20 a month, same as ChatGPT Pro. And they say the performance is on par with GPT-4. So it looks like Google's finally trying to catch up here. I used it a little bit last night, and it seems pretty good. I can't distinguish it between, obviously the results are different from GPT-4, but quality level is about the same from the quick tests I did last night. We're about halfway through, and I want to wrap this up. So
because you only slept a few hours last night.
Yeah, let me scan through here. I get to drive to Miami right after this because I've got that talk I'm giving in person at the ISACA WOW conference down there. There's some really interesting reports here. I'd urge you to go check some of those out. One about ransomware exploitation. One from MasterCard that's just looking at emerging technology trends. Google Cloud's Threat Horizons report has some interesting stuff in it. A lot of them are pretty short and sweet too. So these are good to check out. Veracode just released their annual Threat of Security or State of Software Security report, which this edition is focused on the threat of security debt. So they actually do some analysis into where security debt exists in applications. So that one looks interesting there as well. Let's see, we've got some trends here. So some legal trends where people are using Wi-Fi jammers to block cameras before they break into a house. And then another one where flipper zeros are being used to steal cars. Like, I guess if it's happened more than once, all of a sudden they become, public offender number one. So Canada is trying to, or maybe has already banned these. They have already.
Yep.
So it's happened. Okay, it's not proposed. Okay,
I believe it has fully been banned, because a bunch of it reminds me of the old days back when back in the loft days of like Back Orifice and the launches of like the original remote access Trojan style software that was billed as it's for remote control and IT of your remote desktops, which could also be directly used as a remote access Trojan, right? And it's the same kind of thing. Just because the tool is bad doesn't mean that right. Just because the tool has the potential to be bad doesn't mean it's a bad tool. It takes an actor with a malicious intent to do that, right? So it 100% reminds me of the debates we had 20 years ago, back in the late 90s on this topic.
It's a kitchen knife. It's a pair of scissors. It's, you can do, it's like the Wassenaar agreement. We had this whole, in Germany's Wassenaar agreement, we had this whole conversation where, basically port scanning became illegal in Germany. And it was ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
yeah. How are you supposed to secure your own stuff?
It's a crowbar, right? You can use it to take your wheels off your car, or you can use it to kill somebody. So should we ban crowbars? No.
Yeah, it's dumb, short-sighted. We have the benefit of hindsight. We know how this works. This is an open source product that you can build yourself. All the schematics are out there. The software is out there. I'm in the websites.
I'm in a Slack with a bunch of the old CDC and Loft guys, and they all went bonkers when that news came out. They're like, "Yeah, this is like the old days going again." They were all rallying against it. It made me laugh.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't even 3D printing a gun, right? This is pretty,
ridiculous.
It's just it's not doing anything your laptop can't do, right? Like, you throw Kali on a laptop, it can do most of the same. It can actually do a whole lot more. Laptop is way more dangerous. You're going to ban the laptops? You're going to ban computers? It's dumb. Anyway, I think I labeled that a rant in here somewhere. No. So the rant thing labeled in here, that's Ross Hollywood talking about fake stats in the industry. Obviously, something I've spent a lot of time tracking and talking about. So that's a good read. More privacy issues over in Europe, just like Germany banned schools from using Microsoft 365 because they couldn't get the privacy agreements that they wanted. Same thing happened in Denmark, but with Chromebooks and Google. Google Workspace, Google for schools, whatever Google has there. Let's see. Reports, we talked about that. Trends. Let's see. Best practices. This was an interesting one, number 35. So the UK is basically throwing away the old traditional 30, 45, 90-day patch cycles, and they're recommending specific amounts of time. 5 days or less for internet-facing stuff, 7 days or less for operating systems and application, and 14 days or less, 2 weeks or less, to patch internal and even air-gap services and software are the recommendations that they're throwing out there, which I think are pretty, I think in reality, even that's going to be too slow for some percent of exploits and attacks. Obviously a 0 day, a minute's too slow. The way you find out about the vulnerability is you get exploited. It gets exploited. But I think that's a positive trend. I'm glad that this is the UK's government throwing out this recommendation. So hopefully that moves some of the laggards, gets them into motion.
Yeah, definitely a step in the right direction on this one.
Let's see. Let's jump to the squirrel stories here. So one of them is a quick one, number 38, Microsoft Graveyard. Exactly like the Killed by Google. I think it's killedbygoogle.com. It's been around for a while. Google is famous for killing products. If it doesn't make $1 billion, they kill it. I think that's generally the cutoff point.
Wow.
Yeah, if it doesn't do $1 billion in revenue, it dies, even if people like it, even if it works well. So Microsoft has killed a lot of stuff too. So now there is a Microsoft Graveyard website. And it's
Visual Studio for Mac.
Yeah.
That one surprised me.
Look on there, like some of them, like I remember Jamboard, like Google just recently killed that. But some of them you go on there, you're like, I didn't even know this was a product. This looks pretty cool. I'm sad I didn't know about this.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I started scrolling down. I looked over at the bar on the right and was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot here.
But the really interesting squirrel story that we're going to wrap with, we talked about some crazy products today. We've talked about controlling your dreams. We've talked about new AI. We've talked about USB drives that explode themselves. But this one is truly ridiculous. So this is a Corvette C8, the Rezvani Beast, that is highly, highly customized. Like it's based on a Corvette C8. It looks like almost everything is replaced on this thing, as different styling. They're only making 20 of them. They're $500,000. But if you will humor me, click the link and scroll down to the section that says optional 007 package.
Ooh, whoa. Smoke screen. Electrified door handles.
Door handles.
Intercom system, magnetic deadbolts, gas masks, hypothermia kit, pepper spray dispenser, strobe lights, optional bulletproof package.
Dispenser.
That is incredible. Explosive device detection.
So these two packages together are another $100,000. Katie, I can't hear you if you're talking.
If I created that USB, it could detect it.
Just in case you need it, it has electromagnetic pulse protection.
Yeah. Like how are you detecting explosive devices? Like what's explosive? Like, is it the material, the chemical, like some kind of chemical sensors? Thermal night vision system. I mean, that's a little, some of this is clearly like they've just gone, they found some military stuff that you can buy and strap them onto a car. This makes more sense when you look at the other cars they sell. All the other cars they sell are these huge military looking SUV vehicles, like with 6 wheels and stuff like that, giant trucks and stuff like that. So once you look at those, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. That looks like it would be a post-apocalyptic armored truck. Yeah.
I just want the electrified door handles and magnetic deadbolts so I can zap my kids one time.
I was going to say that the pepper spray detector, I can see that having misuse and abuse issues in the future.
It's a mobile panic room. This car is a mobile panic room.
So
I don't even know if the electromagnetic pulse protection works. Like, who has an EMP to test it?
I think you can build them, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal to buy them. I know it exists, but yeah, this is. I mean, it's a wet dream. Like this is satisfying somebody's dream to have, to live in a movie, where you need this kind of thing. Like I guess from a capitalist point of view, like it's amusing. It's fun that somebody can buy this. I really don't want anybody owning a car that can eject pepper spray at, pedestrians. I don't like the smoke screen. Like there's some things on here that should probably be illegal on the road.
Is the pepper spray internal or external?
Doesn't say. It just says it has a dispenser, Katie. It doesn't say internal versus external. Although that would be really tough if you pepper sprayed yourself while you were driving. That'd be pretty bad.
Well, right, but I'm thinking, if somebody like hops in your car and tries to kidnap you or whatever, or like date rape or something, this is going very, very wrong. But I was thinking it's internal, and that's why they have the gas masks.
And see, that's why when you test your product ideas and you want to figure out the abuse cases, you need diversity from those people. Like Katie's thinking about this, from a very different perspective than me and Tyler would.
Yeah, Katie's thinking about protecting herself. We're thinking about killing other people.
You're right, because we're dudes.
I mean,
yep. Yeah, very very easy to sell diversity, I think, when you start looking at something like this. Yeah, if somebody wants to pretend they're Batman, yeah, I'm totally cool with that. Until it starts to threaten other people. But hey, it's
you make a good point with that analogy. The last thing I'll leave you with on this topic, you make a good point because the Corvette C8 in general looks like the Batmobile anyways. So if you're going to do it, let's do it. And we'll call it the Batmobile and we'll put Batmobile license plate on it or something, then okay. I get it.
And they have a car configurator that you can play with. So if you go to the top, you click build yours, you can play around with the colors and the features and stuff like that and pretend you're Batman. But yeah, only 20 of these. And if you spec it out, you're looking at 600, 700 grand. Okay. This is a thing that exists now.
I bet you they sell all 20.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, 20, surely there's 20 people who want to pretend they're Batman. Anyway, that's all we've got time for today. Katie and Tyler, thank you so much for being here with me and pretending you're Batman and Batwoman.
Anytime for you, Adrian. Anytime.
I appreciate you both. And big thanks to everybody watching or listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. We will not be back next week. Next week, I think, is MLK week. And so because it's a holiday, we are
President's Day.
Huh? President's Day. Okay. What is MLK?
You're behind.
I like I said, haven't slept much this week. I think I say that in the announcement. I think I say the wrong holiday. So I might have to go back and re-record that, Sean. Sorry. I'm a mess. Anyway, we will not be here next week. We will be playing a Vault episode. That Vault episode is Chris Cochran talking about threat hunting and threat intelligence, founder of Hacker Valley, the Hacker Valley podcast, Hacker Valley Media. And it's a good one. It's from way back when I first started doing the podcast. So I'm happy to share that one again if you've never seen it. But again, big thanks, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.